Hello, everyone. This is the Industry 4.0 Club on LinkedIn Live, and we are starting a new series here talking about a day in the life. And as you can see, we have here myself, Jan Pinkel, and Ann Wyatt, and we don't have our guest yet. So we have a little bit of technical issues, and we're not sure if we might have to postpone today. But then we will definitely come up with a following week where we will then revisit this session here. But right now we're just giving our guest a little bit of time just to see if he can make it work. So just bear with us for a little bit. And in the meantime, maybe Anne, if you want to introduce the series itself, in hopes of we're still going to get going today.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Because of course, if we don't get going today, we will have the kickoff at a later date. So no worries there. But so this new series is called A Day in the Life, and it was something that Carol actually brought to us and said, I really want to do this series. I really want to start with individuals and professionals, maybe at the C-suite, and then talk to different people all throughout the organization for manufacturing. And I thought it was a terrific idea. And I know you did too, Yen. And
Yeah.
we just went for it. So we're just going to be talking to several different individuals that are part of manufacturing all throughout the organization. Hey, Jack!
Hey, sorry, gang. I think we had
You're good.
An industry 4.0 problem there. I don't know.
Well, I am glad you were able to make it. I know sometimes we run into some technical issues with connectivity, especially when we're in manufacturing and there's all kinds of IT issues, but I'm glad you were able to join us here right at the start. So welcome, Jack. Appreciate you.
Welcome to you guys, or thank you for welcoming me. And can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Oh, yes, we can.
Crazy.
So that's perfect. So we were just introducing the series. Anne was talking about the idea of a day in a life, and we're going to be visited by a couple different guests with different roles in the manufacturing industry. But we're going to start at the top today. So we're going to start with the president of one of these manufacturing companies in this space. So Jack, welcome to our little show here today.
Thank you, guys. You can see I'm just arranging the phone now. There we go. That's about as good as it's going to get.
No, it is fine.
It looks good.
Yep, absolutely. So let me just quickly prepare here. So a couple of general items here. We are on LinkedIn Live today. And so we're just going to be talking to Jack here. And as you can see, we are on video. So so an extra added bonus here today. And that means that the interaction from our audience is to LinkedIn. So if you have a question sometime during this process, we're going to be monitoring the LinkedIn chat on this event, which is live on LinkedIn right now. And so please feel free to put in comments and join our conversation, and we will relay those questions back into the conversation as we get going here. But just quick start. Do you want to? Actually, let me introduce myself first. Jan Pinkel. I'm one of the co-founders of Industry 4.0 Club, and when I'm not here with Ann and other great people in our group, as well as our great guests, I am in product management. I'm a product leader for Ingersoll Rand, where I am responsible for our digital solutions, where we are making our equipment smart and connected. So, Ann, do you want to quickly introduce yourself before we hand it over to Jack?
Sure. Thanks, Yen. So my name is Ann Wyatt, and I'm also co-founder of the Industry 4.0 Club. And when I am not running around with these amazing people from I-40 and our guests, I am running my own recruiting agency. So I'm really stoked to have this conversation today. And thank you so much, Jack, for joining us. We really appreciate it. We know you're a busy guy, so thank you.
So excited to be here. The busy guy's no big issue, and love having these conversations that are moving our industry forward. And this club is awesome for doing all of this. Maybe I should introduce myself, maybe, and then,
Absolutely.
then we'll
Yes.
play the moderation
Yes.
game. So my name is Jack Nehlig, and I'm the president and CEO of Phoenix Contact USA. I've been in industry about 40 years. My first 20 years was with Honeywell, running their Honeywell Sensing and Control unit, one end of the industry spectrum, the sensing and control end, and then the last 20 years have been with Phoenix Contact, and we're in the control cabinet part of the industry, if you will. We're in a lot of other places too, but generally speaking, we're inside the control cabinet. I really love the fact that you're going to run this series, and I look forward to some future guests. I think, though, that I would say a couple things first. One, I'm a general manager, right? And I'm at a certain level. I'm not a big publicly traded CEO. I'm a SME company, small medium enterprise. We have about 1,000 employees in the U.S. I report to the headquarters in Germany. So I'd call myself more of a general manager than a president and CEO, but I'm a general manager. I love this series, and I look forward to the great guests. And I joked with Ann offline that I think this is great that we've set the bar low by starting with me, and then we can grow ourselves into greater and greater guests from there. It's going to be a really great way to do this. And then the last comment I would make is, if I had to rename this segment today instead of a day in the life, as a general manager, and I think most VP types or general managers would know this and sort of agree with me, a general manager job is sort of an ADD job. You know, you just hop around and do so many different things. It's hard to say what a day in my life is and make it sound interesting. So I'm going to treat it in my mind, and hope you all can treat it with me, as how about an on any given day in the life of Jack. So I'm going to collect up a lot of different things and share them. And I think it'd be more like on any given day, because I clearly don't do all these things that we'll discuss today on a day. So I think that's what I would preface this with. And I don't know how we want to go from here. Maybe you guys are going to moderate it and ask, or maybe I'm just going to keep rambling. Maybe you better coach me.
No, we have some questions lined up to ask you, so
Great.
Don't worry about that. And I just want to say, SMEs are my people, so I'm here for it. I love it.
It's great.
So if you are ready to get started, I think we are also ready. Yen, what do you think?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so based on what you just said there, on any given day, we will preface the first question with on any given day. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do kind of day to day, and more importantly, like, what are some of the challenges that you see and have to overcome on a daily basis?
Okay, so I'll do a quick whiz through what I do on any given day, and we'll get to those challenges and things. So the first thing I actually do on any given day after I wake up is have a cup of coffee at about 6 a.m. and I look at LinkedIn for about a half an hour. And that's the honest truth. It's not a commercial for LinkedIn. They're listening in, I'm sure, and are liking people say that. But what I've transitioned to in my life is I use LinkedIn almost as my Wall Street Journal or something. It's a great way to look over industry and see what's going on. And it's efficient, and it's insightful at times, and it's all under my control. So I just do it from about 6 to 6:30 every morning. And then I do my process of getting ready to go to work and all that sort of thing. So that's how I start my day. And then I would say from this point on, it goes to this whole collection of things, right? So if I overview some of those, right? So I do the boring stuff like staff meetings, have them every 2 weeks, about a 6-hour staff with my leaders. We have once a month a leadership lunch that I host with, then maybe if I have a staff of 7, then maybe about 100 leaders in our company of 1,000. And those 100 leaders get to hear from us once a month while they're eating lunch. And we discuss all the challenges and good news that's going on. So that's the second one. Another one that I think is real fun and interesting is every 2 weeks, we have a little leadership stand up on Friday mornings for our digitalization efforts. And we have 6 digitalization committees comprising about 60 people attacking digitalization in its functional chunks. And they're cross-functional teams of folks doing a great job. It's not their day job, it's their other job. And then we have a little stand-up every Friday morning, and they all give us a 10-minute update on what they're doing and what they need help with and how it's going. So that's kind of fun. And then I guess you mainstream a lot of what I should do, and I do is I meet a lot with customers and distributors because, quote, they're our customers, if you will. And I travel out to those customers and distributors. So, that if you want to name the single largest thing I do, it's probably that, interact with our world. And then if you go on a little bit more, our company here in the U.S. is comprised of 2 entities. One of them is a sales and marketing subsidiary, go doing the sales part of the world and growing and working with customers. But we also have a pretty big operation here that's doing development and manufacturing. And so then I get into a series of activities with them. I can walk the factory floor and talk to people. I can sit in design reviews of new products going on. I do lots of things with that manufacturing team, and that's really fun stuff. Really hands-on. You get to look and see all the magic behind the scenes. Not, by the way, customers and distributors aren't fun too. They're awesome, but it is really exciting to get your fingernails dirty, like seeing actually where everything's manufactured and the magic is happening in design and development in the labs and that kind of stuff too. So that's really fun. And by the way, it's National Engineers Week, and we should all give a huge, quiet applause right now to those engineers making our world a better place. Exciting. So I do that. And then there's trips, to Germany a couple times a year, to Hanover Fair, which is the big, if I know Jan's been to that, I'm sure, and many on this video, if there's anybody on it that's in our world that goes there. I don't know if you've been there, Ann, but Hanover Fair is, for the industrial world, is literally the Super Bowl of trade shows. It's just incredible what goes on there. I always like talking about Siemens when I go to Hanover Fair. Siemens has a booth that's usually 300 by 100.
It's typically one of the buildings, the whole building.
What?
Yeah, it's almost the whole building. It's a building we're in, and it's 2-story and has escalators inside the booth. It's just the most incredible thing. And I heard a rumored number that I know is pretty close to true. They spend about $10 million for that week on that booth.
Wow.
So if people have only ever been to trade shows in the U.S., someday they ought to find their way over to Germany in April and go to the Hanover Fair. You will never see another trade show as exciting, crazy. Now CES in the U.S. is pretty cool too, but I'm just thinking of the industrial world that we
absolutely. Yeah. CES is industrial, but the products are typically consumer based, right? Where Hanover is a lot broader, and the different tracks and they have in Hanover. It's like the whole world is there, and we do talk about everything around manufacturing.
And what's fascinating to me at that Hanover Fair is I actually meet sometimes more of my customers there than I do at trade shows in the U.S. So, because it's so concentrated, there's so many U.S. customers that go over to sightsee and see the show, and it's really fantastic. So, anyway,
that sounds like a blast.
That's a fun one.
When are we going? We're going, right? Let's go.
Yeah, let's all go. It's wonderful. Well, it's finally going to be reopened again. Obviously, they were shut down for the last 2 years. It's happening again this May, right on Memorial Day. this year. It's reigniting, if you will. There's another fantastic trade show that's evolved over the last 20 years, and Jan probably also knows this. It's called SPS, was SPS Drives, but it's
Yes.
SPS,
which is also Germany.
That's around our Thanksgiving timeframe, about a week earlier now, I think. And that one focuses on automation and control mainly, whereas Hanover Fair is broad industrial. Like you can go to an energy pavilion and walk through a live or a large scale wind turbine, right? You can see exactly what the wind turbine looks like. Whereas SPS is more about the automation and control world we live in specifically. So that one's pretty exciting too.
And that's big too, as
Very
well.
cool.
It's very large. That one's in
Yeah.
Nuremberg. The other one's in Hanover, of course. And but it's not as large. They do a little booth control there. There's actually some booth control not letting it get too large, which is kind of interesting.
I would say SPS, you can get through while you're there. Hanover Fair, you won't be able to get to it.
It takes the whole week to just, you can't. It's crazy.
That sounds fun.
So anyway, those are a lot of the things I do, but I ought to pause. I mean, now challenges. And I think I should have prefaced this too. My brain is not wanting to offer anything about COVID and the pandemic and those challenges, because I think we're all worn out on that conversation. So if I just think pre and post pandemic challenges, I'm not someone that wakes up every day thinking of challenges, right? I'm somebody who wakes up every day thinking about all the great stuff that's going on and positive only, right? Because I always believe you can wake up any day, think of a negative thing or a positive thing. It's just a choice the first minute you wake up. So, but if you want to say challenges, I would say even before the pandemic, it was getting hard to find enough great people to join your team. Just hiring was difficult. Other than that, the challenges word is hard for me. I have a weakness, and it's admitting there's challenges. I just love fun and opportunities.
They're opportunities, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
that's
on the opportunity side, and this goes directly to Industry 4.0, and I've spoken about this before in public forums, we are fighting an issue of people don't know what they don't know. And that's the big issue. Jan has heard me speak of this before. You also, Ann, that the mass of technology that's available to be deployed is far greater than people's and companies' ability to consume that mass. And it's partly money, but it's more importantly understanding the possibilities. It's just so difficult to understand this massive amount of possibilities. So the biggest challenge for our company and many in our space is teaching our customers and convincing our customers to go down the path of Industry 4.0 or go down the path of smart manufacturing, smart cities, smart this, smart that, because it's so Brave New Worldish. It's so people just don't believe it, And I've used this example time and time again. Is just simple robotic lawnmowers. People look at it and say, they're wasting money on robotic lawnmowers. We have robotic lawnmowers. They mow our lawn, and they're cheap. And
Yen was telling me about this specific example before our call today. Could you tell us a little bit more about this story, because he told me, but I want to hear it from.
So the story
I want to hear your point of view.
It's just kind of funny and uplifting to me. I just, one day we have a large campus and 6 acres of mowable lawn around the campus. It's a pretty big, and got parking lots and all these crazy things. So you have a landscape company do it, right? And they have those 0-turn mowers the guys ride around on, or gals, and they got headphones on, and they're real noisy and fast. And just, one day, as a good Industry 4.0 leader, I called my facility leader and said, "Hey, Doug is his name." I said, "Doug, we got to start mowing our lawn robotically. This is crazy. And we also are a big believer in climate change and a big believer in sustainable energy and all those things. And I said, let's just do it. Let's robotic lawnmower this place up. And he even said the same thing. He goes, well, can we afford that kind of? I'm like, Doug, we got to go after this. It's got to be affordable. So we just bought them, deployed them, but before we did it, we did the research, which was simple research. Anybody could do it, and looked at the various options. We chose Husqvarna. They make the best. They've had them out for 20 years now. They've had these robotic lawnmowers out on the market for 20 years. We actually went to the landscape architect company, the guy providing the services, who was still going to do some work around the edges and areas that we didn't want to do the mowers in because it would be a little difficult. Plus, they do the mulching and they do our snow removal and all that stuff. We said to them, look, you got to give us a deduct for this amount of area. But we said, if you want, you can buy them, you can put them in, you can own them, you can service them, and just charge me for the service, just like you charge me for the guys or gals riding around on the mowers, whatever. But we expect it to be less because there's nobody riding around on one of those things. So after a week or so, he thought about it and came back. He's a pretty big company too, by the way. He passed. He said, no, thank you. So that's one of the greatest. They don't know what they don't know. He should have studied that. He should have realized it. And you know what's funny? I'll bet you $1 that his biggest challenge is finding good people.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So
yeah,
he could hire these people. He could hire people to just service them, come do the weed whacking a little bit, the extra check. They'd probably like their jobs. But that's you don't know what this leader of that company just didn't want to know.
and it would probably have been a small investment for him just to try it out with you as one pilot.
Exactly.
And then say, if it didn't work out, he'll just go back to you and say, hey, can you buy these from me? And then I'll just, whatever. Or if it worked, hey, maybe I'll go to other customers and offer them a completely different offering.
Exactly.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you seen any difference in that perspective of you don't know what you don't know? But because with COVID, and now we're mentioning it anyway, but yeah, you said we're not going to talk too much. But with this whole thing, I've seen a lot of increase in innovation around certain areas because people are trying to find solutions. It's not just finding vaccines, but it's really figuring out how we're going to work, right? And so have you seen maybe more an openness to try new technologies that might relieve some of the employee skills gaps issues and other stuff like that over the last few years?
I think you nailed it, Jan, that it was a really horrible event, that pandemic, but it's now caused people to relook at everything, and it's driving. I mean, if you just look at the robotics industry with cobots, it's caused a change in the curve, an inflection point where they're overwhelmed with business and orders, which is an exciting thing. We need it to happen desperately. So yeah, I think, it's hard to say there's good that came out of it. You don't want to think about that because of the devastation that it caused. But, I think we're going to be a better world now that we embrace some of these concepts, and people are doing it. This whole people puzzle fascinates me. I mean, it was hard to find people, and Ann knows all about this, before the pandemic, but it wasn't this hard.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the real estate conversation. They talk about it being a great resignation, which would suggest there's a whole bunch of people that resigned and are just going and sitting in their lounge chair drinking a Coke. But sooner or later, you think you got to work and make a living someday. So I think of it as a great rearrangement. People are just changing what they're going to do. Although I really believe, and I'm starting to learn, that in the production worker, warehouse worker, service industry, people were dual income in it, to survive. And I think, especially if they're doing families, I think they learned and looked at it and said the incremental of working wasn't worth the other job because it was all getting chewed up in daycare and there was such little left. I think they just said we're going to scrap away and get it done on one income, and that way we lost a lot of workers that were available to be in the workforce.
I've known so many people. I mean, I've known people like in real life that have had this same challenge, and it's just really difficult to have that dual income and then have small children. And
Yep.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's one of the things that we talk about so much on our Monday rooms with women in manufacturing is, the challenge of being a female employee in manufacturing sometimes. I don't know, for example, I mean, there's no way, which I'm fortunate. I've worked from home, for a while now. But there's just no way. I just kept imagining, like, what would I do if I worked on a floor with my child at 5 years old?
Yeah.
There's no way.
And even if you take $20 an hour as a fair wage for a factory or warehouse operator, the price of childcare now doubled. So now instead of $7,500 a year, now it's $15,000 a year.
It's expensive.
So now you look
I will testify it is very expensive.
Yeah. Now you look at your 40 grand income at $20 an hour. It's almost better just to stay home. So I think that, disintegration, if you will, of our old formula, the way things came together, is what we're all suffering through. I mean, we are still suffering through it. So that's the economics for the factory workforce and the warehouse workforce and the service industry. On the higher skilled, higher educated, higher compensated, I don't know. Ann probably knows better there too, but it's very hard to find that group. And there is where I was hoping it only turns out to be a great rearrangement. The several people we might have lost have changed their lives. We had a controls engineer just decide he wanted to go work for AWS, and cloud.
Yeah.
So he loved our company, loved what he was doing, just wanted to change. He just said, I'm going for a big change. So I think there's a lot of that going on. But that's making that end of the world kind of challenging too. Finding the higher skilled, higher educated professionals is quite difficult at the moment.
So that is a recruiting trend that I've noticed in the past year, because it was like, I mean, you've always had, I mean, pre-pandemic, even around like 2013, 2014, like when you're talking about like hourly, the hourly workforce, there's always a certain amount of fluctuation there. But then, you're starting to look at like these, like what you're talking about, like the higher skilled roles, and when you think of like the mid-range to upper range of experience level, you're really starting to see a decrease there. And that has been some topic of conversation that I've had with other recruiters too. Just trying to, figure out what they're seeing, what I'm seeing, comparing, trying to figure out what's really, what's taking place there, because theoretically, to your point, you really wouldn't have this type of shift, right? Like it, with that group. So it is quite interesting. I think that I don't worry as much about that though. I feel like that will stabilize itself out, to be honest. But as far as bringing in the automation and the robotics and things like that, I think this is a great opportunity to do that, because you are going to be looking at an increasing workforce shortage. And, you're just not going to have the labor. I mean, you're going to think of it like, well, people are going here and there, but in reality, whereas you used to have 30 employees running a machine line here, you now have 5.
Yep.
So really trying to be creative and innovative on ways that you can solve those challenges. And then also let those employees have a little bit more flexibility as well, right? Let them
Yep.
upskill them. So maybe they're coordinating the robots instead of operating them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And
the area I think would be interesting to talk a little bit with you too, is that again, this whole period here has had a lot of, as you say, workers kind of question their current situation. And that's not just the hourly worker, that's been all the way up, right? And especially also looking at, well, what is the company I'm working for going to do now once we get past this pandemic? What's the new environment? What's the new culture? So have you thought of, from a company perspective,
Yeah.
of how you're changing the culture and the communication about the culture? Because I think if you want to get the right people to work for you now, you got to change a little bit and saying, here is how we have changed, and here's what you can expect from a flexibility perspective and other things.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah. So this is probably the biggest question, percolating at the moment, because we're about to be done with this mess, right? So theoretically, it's going to continue to fade away, and then theoretically, everybody can come back, right? So that's the theory, right? You have these buildings that you paid for, all these wonderfully attractive cubes people can sit in, and you can bring them all back. So I think we're at a genie's out of the bottle moment, though. So the lid came off and the genie's out of the bottle, and the workers have been highly enlightened. So
Well, management too, right? What they were communicating is not possible. It can't work.
Yeah. So I was going to go there. So the good news is we have this sort of medium now where we can stare at each other, look each other in the eye. We can almost feel like we're sitting next to each other, and we can group it up. We can teams on it. We can do things. So we have technology that's allowing the work from anywhere in a different way. It always used to be available for people like Ann in her career, but for your whole group of people in your company, only certain people could really do that well. Now that aperture is wide open, right? So I'll tell you how, quote, we're doing it. So what we're going to do is this. So our number was about 500 people we jettisoned in April 2 years ago. 500 people within 1 week had to leave the building. The other 200, 250 warehouse factory workers kept doing their thing. Our hero workers, they did their job awesome. The 500 folks were also heroes. They quick ran into their houses. We had to outfit about 150 of them with laptops really fast. We did it. They did it. Boom. So then when we got ready to bring them back last year after the first wave of the vaccines and the drop in the cases in June, July of last year, we got ready to come back, and we even put it out on LinkedIn. Welcome back. We're going. But before we did that, we surveyed everybody. We said, what do you want to do? It was really impressive survey. It said, what do you want to do? You have 3 choices. Stay in my house, come back to work, or do halvesy. Something in the middle. So in our 500, 100 said, I want to stay in my house. 100 said, I'm dying to get back to work. 300 said, I want to do some of each. And then the amazing thing that keeps hitting me is in the 100 that said, I want to stay at home, I have a worker doing the exact same job as in the 100 that says, I got to come back to work. So
it's just a personality thing, right?
It's personality. It's also your life condition, right? So your life situation.
Mm-hmm.
So personality works for me, Ann, because I just would rather be at work. I like being at work. I like being in my office. I like seeing people. I like doing things. It's just who I am. I sit at home. I hear the dogs bark. It bothers me. The Amazon guy drops off a box. I get distracted at home. So I like being, but to me, seeing many of cases where the worker could be here or here and they're doing the exact same job, that fascinated me, right? So it's not about the work per se. It's more about what's right for that individual in their life.
Yeah.
So then my staff looked
right.
at that and said, okay. Then there was all this discussion of, how do you preserve your work environment in the future work from anywhere, work from home culture? Oh boy, the people won't be here. We won't be able to create that great culture. We got to preserve the culture. How do we preserve the culture? And that was a big conversation. So with my staff, we agreed our goal is not to preserve the culture. We agreed that our goal is to make the culture better than it was.
Oh,
That was our goal.
It's great.
I love that. I
So
love that.
most people think it's like, oh, you're going to lose by doing this. The negative outlook of it. If we can't have everybody on the campus, our culture will fade. We won't have the goodness. But my analogy is this. Think of any major university, any college anywhere. You have all these students going to college. They come and they go. Some days they're on campus the whole day. Some days they're not on campus at all. They're in their apartment cramming for an exam. Some days they come for a team meeting. Some days they just come on to go to the gym. And they're going back and forth doing all this stuff. Now, you talk to most people that have had their college or university experience. What do they say about their college? God, I love that place. It was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
So why can't your company campus look and feel like a university campus? Why can't that be? So that's our dream. I'm not saying I have the formula yet, how we're going to pull it off. But remember I said we have those leadership lunches with 100 of them? I told those leaders that's our job, is to make sure we create a better experience for the employees, make sure that this culture even gets better than it ever was. And then we'll know we did a good leadership job. So that's the way I think it's going to work. Yeah, it's good and bad. Now I'm going to give you a bad. I was speaking to another CEO of another company, and they said, yeah, you know what we're going to do is we're going to let people work from home a couple days a week, but not on Mondays and Fridays. And I said, why?
That makes no sense.
They might want to stretch their weekend a little and blah, 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 blah. And I said, wait a minute. If somebody's home on a Friday and they're going to go away for the weekend, what do they normally do? They come to work, they work hard, they race home in a rush hour Friday night, they get their family packed up, whatever they're going to do, and then they get out of there by 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then they have to drive 3 to 4 hours wherever they're going. And I said, what's wrong with letting them work from home on that Friday? Maybe they'll get up a little early. Maybe on their breaks, they can finish their laundry. Maybe at lunch, they could pack the car. And then at 4:15, which was plenty of time because they started work at 6:30, they got in their car and beat the traffic.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Some part of it is trust, right?
Yeah, it's huge trust. And that's, of course, now that goes to your company culture, right? So if your company culture embraces trust, you're probably going to pull this off. If your company culture doesn't embrace trust, I think you got a problem. They're going to be the companies that are going to try to keep their culture, which I think a lot of employees might say, I'd rather make it better. But that's it. You nailed it. It's trust. But guess what? I've had conversation after conversation after conversation with our employees on this very topic. And what I normally find, and I know, is when they work at home, I get more hours out of them, not less.
Exactly.
And I'm not telling them to do that. I'm not saying somebody that comes to work doesn't work hard. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I don't have any worry about people working from home. We trust them. And you know what? If someone is not trustworthy, you'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Even if
Definitely.
Even at their work or at home or anywhere, you'll figure it out. So it shouldn't be a conversation of trust. It should just be the way it is. And so now that's our job. We don't have it solved. I'll go back a minute ago, though. I don't want people on this stream to think we have it all figured out and I could write a book on how to make it perfect, because I can't. But I can just tell you my leadership team's excited about trying to make it better for our employees. And I think we will.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think about like routine too. So if you're thinking about like the individual's routine, because humans are habitual, like they're habitual in nature. I mean, we like routine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is something that's ingrained in us from very early on. So to me, it's almost like it would be, I'm just imagining myself. I'm imagining myself having to almost like train my brain, right, to be somewhere Monday and then be somewhere else Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then be somewhere Friday, and then, be off. I'm almost thinking like Monday, Tuesday, if you wanted to do something like that, would almost get you, it would help you adjust, I think, a little bit
Yeah.
more. But everybody's different,
Everybody's
it's
different.
hard to pinpoint, right?
But really, if you think about it, people have their own lives, right? But if I think about it, just a doctor's appointment, if I have to go into the office, that's half a day, maybe the whole day
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
Whereas if I'm at home, it's an hour. I'm just going down
Yes.
there, one check, and I'll be back, and
All right.
it's a different environment, and I think leaders just need to start accepting that it has. I mean, it's proven it to work. The last 2 years have proven it's worked, and everybody's saying we got more productivity than we had before.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ann, I was going to say earlier, and I forgot that one of the disclaimers about having me on is I don't like really the fact that it's about me, because it's not. It's about my team and my company. And if I punt into a bragging about my company every now and then, you'll have to forgive me. But
I love
you
it.
bring up the doctor thing, Jan. About a decade ago, as we were growing our campus here, I said to my VP of HR, who's a wonderful person, I said, look, someday we're going to have a doctor's office on site because of what you said. Yeah. And it was like, it's such a pain in the butt to go to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to have one on site. So anyway, we started studying it, and it was maybe 8 years ago. We did it. We have a doctor on site, but we kind of even did it better. So while we were researching it, we stumbled across functional and integrative medicine. So if you haven't studied that, it's all about root cause medicine as opposed to just here's a pill, go get better medicine, right? So
Yeah.
look, our healthcare system is wonderful. If you get sick, we'll fix you. We're wonderful at that, but we're horrible at preventing illness.
Mm.
So functional and integrative medicine are docs that are trained to try to prevent. That's their bias. So we have two docs. Well, I have three actually. So we have a head doc and two nurse practitioners, and the head doc's only really around once a month, and the two nurse practitioners are here sort of full time, and it's on site. And if you want to go see them, you just set it up on your phone and app. You go up, and you make an appointment, and the appointments are never 13 minutes. You're not allowed to have a 13-minute appointment. Those docs, usually your appointment is 45 minutes plus or minus 15, because they want to get to the root cause, and they do. And they've done some amazing things, but you can schedule it at any time during the day. So if you go at 2:15 in the afternoon, you just get up from your desk and walk over there to the clinic and go to the doctor. And then you come back to your desk and you finish your day.
That is
So
cool. That's awesome.
It has been the most incredible thing I think we've ever done on the campus. It's phenomenal. And then we put in a cafe, and in the cafe, I wouldn't let them put in a deep fryer. So we have some chefs that are really fantastic, all organic produce and vegetables, and the chefs are great. And then the docs can work with employees, because about half of your root cause stuff is diet. That's what you find out.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's true. Yeah.
So they coach them through that. My favorite story I have to give you on the diet thing, though, is one of my employees, a young engineer, about 29, 31, I don't know what he was. He came to me at the cafe one day and he says, Jack, did I tell you about my clinic story? I said, no. What's about your clinic? Well, he's a nice guy, named Greg, and he's an Italian. And he said, well, I was having all these horrible irritable bowel syndrome things for many years. And so I finally went to the docs, and we went through a elimination thing and found out it was dairy. So, which is very common. So he got rid of it all and got off all his meds, and everything was wonderful. So he was so excited. So then he and his wife were going to go visit the family in Italy one summer. It was that that very summer. And he said he got there, and of course, the first night he's at his uncle's house, and they're gonna have pizza, and the whole homemade and blah blah blah. And the uncle said, "Come on, Greg, you gotta eat. This is gonna be great." And his wife looks at him like, "Don't do it," because it was like really aggressive reaction to it is what happens. Like, it's not good. I mean, he gets really sick. He looked at her and he said, "Sorry, honey, it's family. I got to do it. I can't not eat what they cooked me." So he eats the pizza. He had no problem. He spent the whole week in Italy with
eating pizza,
eating cheese, and no problem. So I told this story to my lovely wife, and he knows the answer. I could give you the answer, but I told the story to my lovely wife, and she goes, "Well, that's it. That's obvious, Jack, what the problem is." I said, "Well, what is it?" She says, "Have you ever Googled, chemical ingredients they don't allow in Europe that they allow in the US, right?" So what he really was reacting to was preservatives and additives that are in our cheese that are not in European cheeses, because they're not allowed to be put into European cheeses. So and think of the beer laws in Germany, right? Very strict laws, no preservatives, you're not allowed to do it. So his body really wasn't reacting to the dairy, although we solved the problem. The integrated medicine solved this problem, but it really was these chemicals that are in our food stream that are not in European food streams.
Yeah.
I remember when I so I'm from Europe,
doesn't it?
Yeah, so
it's
I'm from
incredible
Europe too.
stories.
Yeah, and I remember when I came to the U.S., I was amazed about how long a half a gallon of milk can stay in the refrigerator before it goes bad, because it can't stay that long in Europe. We're not used to. We gotta drink it, but over here it can be in the refrigerator for a week plus, and it's just about the preservatives and chemicals. Absolutely, yeah. That's cool.
Yep. So anyway, a little diversion. I don't know how I got on that.
Yeah.
I apologize, but I love. Oh, you did. You got it on with the doctor thing. So that's just part of our culture. People can have these doctor visits on site, and people love it, and they just think it's awesome. We do have a group of people say, "I will never go to that clinic," and the reason is
it's their preference, right? So
well, one is part their preference. Two is they know that part of the solution to their problem might be that they aren't allowed to eat something that they love. And they just don't want to go there.
True. Well,
it's just sad, but it's okay.
They don't know what they don't know, right?
They don't know what they don't know.
That's exactly right. So I think we're coming up here to around the last 10 minutes of our hour today, but I did want to, I had just a couple of more questions for you, if that's okay.
Please.
This is kind of more about Jack. These questions are so a little less about work and stuff, but just from your perspective, who are some of the most influential people that have impacted your life, or maybe it's role models, or people that you look up to and admire?
Wow. So that's a hard one without tear jerking yourself, right? So I'm clearly a mother and father who I lost my mom and dad 2 years ago. They were 92. Just the nicest people on the planet. So it's kind of why I like that part of life. Try to be nice to people. I really care about people, and I got it from them. In leadership now, and I'm sure like a lot of people, the Simon Sinek stuff is awesome. So he's someone to look up to, I guess, if you care about people. He's a big people-based leader. I learn from everyone around me, I think, is my perpetual mentor. I just like to make sure I'm always listening and learning from everybody. And, you can learn from so many people, so many things. I try not to, focus on the iconic, this leader. And I have a little bias against some of the famous types, and I learned that bias against them back in the Jack Welch days, 20, 30 years ago. because he got held up as this great icon of leadership. And I would say about half of what he did was great. One thing I loved that he did is he got rid of ties. That was really good for men. He really did, and I love that. But he really taught the desensitization of leadership and people. He wanted that to be insular. He really didn't want leaders to care about people. And that really bothered me. He made it like layoffs should be part of the culture of leadership, you know? And I believe layoffs should be the worst grade of a leader. I mean, if you get a company to a point where you have to lay people off, the first person that should be laid off is the leader. Because your job should be to never let that happen. That should be the goal. Now, if you get a single economic instance once in a lifetime, like 2009, when everybody's business was crashing like crazy, maybe I hand out an excuse. But if you look at a lot of companies, they kind of get used to it and they just put it in a rhythm and just, lay people off. And they're announcing record profits, but they laid people off last quarter. Jack Welch made that acceptable, and not only acceptable, made it sort of normal. That really bothered me. So that lesson taught me to be very skeptical of the retiring CEO that writes a book, that,
right. Yeah.
You bet. And what I then learned was, when I just focused on all the great leaders and people around me, that's all the learning I needed. Just keep learning from those around you that are on your mission with you, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And you can learn from peers in industry just by listening and learning, as opposed to iconic, here's how I slayed and here's how I made this world great people. They just bother me a little bit. So that's a weird way to answer your question, Ann, by saying I don't admire that many people, I guess, which is really bad. I shouldn't say that. I do admire a ton of people. But some of those iconic ones I'm not so thrilled about. So anyway, that's it. So I'd say Simon Sinek is my best iconic one right now.
Yeah, that is interesting. I recall Simon Sinek is one of the ones I follow a lot, and he had a comment at one point that these big Fortune 500 companies, they will lay people off because they missed an arbitrary milestone. They made money, tons of money, but they missed a milestone to the stockholders and shareholders, and so they got to lay people off, right? And it's just a yeah, I can see a point, definitely.
It's a little bit of a point. It's a little bit of a failing of our corporate model. So maybe I'll take the blame off those leaders. They're paid to do that. Maybe. Yeah. I really think they could do it without it, but it's the easy button. It's not too hard to do. So that's it. I deeply admire the owner of our company. So he's 85 years old. He retired as a chairman and CEO at 80. He still goes to work every day. Most wonderful guy, Mr. Eisert, and our leadership team in Germany. They're just a bunch of great guys and gals that do a wonderful job leading this company. And then maybe I'll just reinforce my people point. When I joined this company from Honeywell, about a very fast story, about a year goes by, and it was actually 13, 14 months goes by, and I hadn't talked to my boss much. It was the culture. They said, go do your job and send us monthly reports and tell us how it's going. They just let you lead, which was wonderful. So he calls me, it was a February, and my assistant says, Frank's on the phone. And I said, he hardly ever did that. So I was a little nervous because my January results weren't so good. We were coming off of 01, 02. Results weren't so good. And he gets on the phone and he says, hey, Jack, Frank here. Nice seeing. We did the weather thing, and that kind of stuff. And then he said, I bet you're wondering why I called. And I was like, I'm kind of guessing why he called, but I said, yeah, of course. I want to. He said, well, my assistant Cloudy and I just realized your birthday was January 15th. And it's the second year in a row I forgot to call you on your birthday. I want you to know I apologize for that. And I won't ever let it happen again. I hope you had a wonderful day, blah, blah, blah. And he got off the phone. I'm like, oh my goodness. That's a leadership culture I want to be in. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's pretty nice.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Definitely. So I'm a huge fan of birthdays. Yeah. Like if you know it's somebody's birthday, you have to say happy birthday, right?
It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes easy to forget when you have a huge list of them, and I can just imagine.
Yeah, but we should use our little electronic reminders.
Absolutely. We all have them now, and they almost automated for us too.
Yeah,
They'll
exactly.
capture the birthday from Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and you don't even have to record it anymore.
Yeah, and by the way, you just mentioned something I meant to say earlier. As part of the new better kind of philosophy, by the way, that's what we're calling ours instead of the new normal. We're calling it the new better work environment. As part of that belief, I really believe integrating social media into your life in a positive way is going to be a critical part of leadership and culture, company culture. If done right, it can be a real powerful force. This expanded community feeling around your core. And I'm very excited about that because I was very disillusioned with social media until I learned to approach it properly for me in the LinkedIn world. And it became a value to me in my career and my company's existence and all that kind of thing. So I'm very excited about that. So anyway.
Oh, that's cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. So to that, I'll tell you what I've seen from like a talent acquisition perspective. But I don't know if you're familiar with SHRM, but it's the Society of Human Resource Managers. Yeah. So not too long ago, there was a SHRM article that I was reading about how companies are using social media in the idea of influencers in their recruiting efforts, because it really is the best way for you to kind of have a testimony for your company, which a culture is like, and what you do is finding somebody in your company to represent you and kind of share a little bit more about that. So that is a very growing trend. And I do think that it's such a powerful tool. And it's easy to look at a lot of the types of social media and like experiences maybe in the past, but yeah, I think that's interesting that we're all kind of learning together on how to like make the most of social media as a benefit of a tool. It's very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on another note, Jack, I don't know if you're a big book reader, but what other influences like books have you kind of registered that really was something that you felt had an impact on what you're doing today and what you're thinking?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's a couple. If you go way back, and you don't need to read the book if you read the excerpts from the old days. Tom Peters' In Search of Excellence, which was back in the 80s, was sort of one of the first real iconic leadership books. And he had a famous quote, and I think you could find this on YouTube if you did Tom Peters in this quote. He probably was the foundational moment for me when I was even thinking of becoming a leader. He said, if you don't like people, get the hell out of leadership. That was his thing at the moment.
That's right, though.
And then he would back it up by saying, too many bad leaders are screwing up good companies, right? Like he was just like, just stop. If you want to be a leader, just care about people first, then go on, So it was a really cool moment for me. And so that book profiled great companies at the time. It was one of those kinds of books. The Disciplines of Market Leaders, and I apologize right now, I don't know the author off the top of my head. I know his name, but I don't know his name. Where it talks about customer delay, operational excellence, and then the new product introduction kind of orientation to your company. So it gave you 3 choices to to direct your company, and it planted the seed in my head and many others that you do have a choice on where to focus, on how that you should focus, and you can't, if you read all this stuff, you can't do it all. Don't do that, right? So I like that book too. It was called The Disciplines of Market Leaders, I think is the name of the book, appropriately. That was a great book. A small one I read in the last decade that I liked was called the No Asshole Rule. That was a good book. I forget it's around here somewhere. It's just, again, my orientation of leadership, caring about people. And then I don't know. I think that's about it. Those are
No,
my
that's
best
good.
ones.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, it's always
That's
interesting to
amazing.
get people's perspective on what kind of have guided them. And I mean, in your career, tons of stuff has guided you, right? And as you say, you're listening to people around you, so a lot of different stuff has made an impact. But if there's some core things you can kind of put a pin on, yeah, that really is something that. So that's always good to know. So I appreciate that a lot. Well, here before we end here, just lastly, where can people find you?
J Nehlig, NEHLIG, at phoenixcontact.com, and or that name, same name, but Jack Nehlig on LinkedIn is an easy way to find me, and many people are nowadays, by the way. So
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
it's
We
my
found you.
messaging side goes pretty active, which is good. It's another way to connect. So I think it's fantastic.
It is. Yeah. I love the LinkedIn DMs because they're just so much easier than the email, even. Like, I'm so spoiled now
Exactly.
to it. Yeah.
Well, Jack, it has really been a pleasure, and I told you before that after I heard one of other podcasts you had, that I really wanted to have a conversation with you because I think you have a lot of insights and a lot of ideas, and as you say, what I said is you're doing stuff. You're not just talking about it. You're doing stuff,
That's
and I
right.
really enjoy that.
We're definitely trying, and we're definitely getting somewhere, and it's really kind of fun. We're on a great journey. We're in a wonderful time, as you and I've talked about too in the past. There's an amazing time, a rebirth, an acceleration, whatever you want to say about technology and manufacturing and infrastructure. It is such a fun environment we get to live in right now. So people, I would highly recommend people get attracted to our world because it's a really fun place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation, Jack. I just find that you're a very interesting individual, and of course, we love Ira. So, thank you for sharing with him with us too.
Yeah, he's an
But
awesome guy.
yeah, he's
Absolutely.
awesome. But I just really enjoy any time that I can find a leader that is really out there, like Yen is saying. You're making the change happen. And you're not afraid to kind of overcome those issues and tackle those problems, right? Of
Opportunities.
leadership opportunities, right? That's right. And the way that you guys are choosing to do it through the high performing teams, cross functional teams, I really feel like that's the culture of Industry 4.0. I think it's just going to have to be, just given the way everything is going to kind of be, instead of vertical and horizontally, it's going to be kind of more connected, right? Circular. And it's just amazing when I can connect with somebody and talk with somebody like that, and learn from them as well. So I really appreciate it.
Was my honor being on today, and really enjoy, as I said at the very outset, the fact that you all are hosting these conversations, because I think they're so critical to the success of what we all do. And it's just a great day to be in our world.
Yeah, we're trying to spread the information and all the news, and we're bringing you in here to help us doing that, and really appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, time to close our room here today on LinkedIn Live. It's been a pleasure talking to Jack. I have again, as usual, learned a whole lot, and really appreciate it. And thank you again, Jack, for joining us today. And we look forward to have you come up on stage on our rooms going forward as you have in the past. And so please continue to do that. And with that, I think we will close our LinkedIn Live room here today. What do you guys think?
I think
Yeah,
it's great.
just a quick reminder to everybody out there in either LinkedIn or YouTube. We are going to have Tim Shope on next week. That's going to be our second part of the series, and we thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to continuing the series and hearing from you then.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye now.